Tonight, will Glasgow rise like a phoenix? A decision on who will host the Eurovision Song Contest is imminent.
Glasgow, it's just one of these cities, isn't it? You know, it's a collaboration, all different cultures as is, all want to celebrate their own identity as well. And Glasgow's a fact that weird and wonderful anyway.
Also making the headlines, the First Minister apologises to anyone let down by the NHS on the eve of the SNP conference. The independence referendum will dominate proceedings. Businesses struggling with rising costs are urging the UK government to make dealing with the energy crisis their top priority when they return. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. It would be the hottest ticket in town. In the next hour, we'll know if Glasgow is hosting the Eurovision Song Contest. The event, which attracts billions of viewers around the world, should have been held in Ukraine, but now it's down to just two cities, Glasgow and Liverpool.
The judging has been done and the votes are in, and Graham Norton will make the big announcement at 7 p.m. tonight. So, will it be a nil or 12 points for Scotland's biggest city? Here's Polly Bartlett on a nail-biting day.
Celebrations have started just a little bit early in Glasgow as Eurovision superfans eagerly await tonight's decision.
Go Glasgow!
Why should it be Glasgow?
Why shouldn't it be Glasgow? That's the question you should be asking. Liverpool's nothing on Glasgow.
It should be here in Glasgow because it's a great culture and obviously a great place to be.
Glasgow's got such a buzz about it, and I think us hosting the Eurovision would be amazing for Glasgow, and we always make a big deal about the Eurovision anyway, so we just have a big party.
This bar in the city centre will be showing the announcement live and have produced a drag show to go alongside it. How nervous are you about the announcement tonight?
No point getting nervous now, it's too close to the wire. Oh, we're excited, you know, we're going down to the last two, but, you know, I think we're in a good chance. Glasgow, it's just one of these cities, isn't it? You know, it's a collaboration, all different cultures as is, all want to celebrate their own identity as well. And Glasgow's a fact that weird and wonderful anyway.
Anticipation is rising like a phoenix on the city's streets. But for Ukrainians living here, this moment is bittersweet.
Well, for me personally, it's going to be a really fantastic opportunity to host the event that should have been in Ukraine, but sadly is not, to bring it to Scotland. And I suppose for me it's always going to be a way to say thank you to Scottish people, because, you know, the warmth that Ukrainian people received in Scotland, the kindness is just simply unmeasurable.
Eurovision officials have been making their mind up after a site visit to the city last week. In the next hour, we'll know if they gave us 12 points and if they went boom, bang a bang for Glasgow. Well, you can't quite see it at the moment, but tonight the Hydro has been lit up in the colours of the Ukrainian flag, and this will of course be the venue of the competition if Glasgow is selected. Eurovision is watched by billions of people across the world, and it will of course bring in millions of visitors to the cities. Hotels here have already seen a surge in bookings, and of course it will be a £1 million boost to the local economy. It would also place Glasgow firmly on the major events map. Of course, last year we hosted COP26, in 2014 we hosted the Commonwealth Games, and next year we'll be hosting the UCI World Cycling Championships. Glasgow is also a city that's known to love a party, so the anticipation is really building here, and we'll find out our fate in the next hour.
Fingers crossed, Polly. Thank you. Well, the First Minister has also said she hopes Glasgow wins Eurovision. She's at the SNP conference this weekend and says it would be great for the city. But with a growing cost of living crisis and fears of energy blackouts over winter, more serious issues will dominate the event.
The independence referendum will no doubt feature strongly. Well, our political editor Colin Mackay sat down with the First Minister earlier. So what did you have to say, Colin?
Well, firstly, on the issue of blackouts, the message from the First Minister is don't panic. But on the other issue today, kind of connected to that, the issuing of the new potential licences for exploration of North Sea oil and gas fields, she's completely against that. But as you say, a year from now, the First Minister wants to lead Scotland into a second independence referendum. But whether she can or can't will depend on the outcome of the Supreme Court. Now, they're meeting on Tuesday, the day after the First Minister's speech to the SNP conference here in Aberdeen. Now, if it rules that the Scottish Parliament doesn't have the power to hold an independence referendum, well, then the First Minister says that she wants to turn the next general election into a de facto referendum.
By hook or by crook, Scotland has to have the right to decide whether or not it wants to be independent. That should be in a referendum. I hope it will be in a referendum. But if that's not the case, there has to be some way it can do that. And clearly the other way would be in an election. To win independence, you've got to have 50% vote support amongst the people of Scotland. So if...
But how do you do that in a general election where you've never managed it before?
Well, by putting the issue and seeking the votes and winning. People have spent years telling the SNP it couldn't do things electorally, and we've confounded expectations along the way. Look, it shouldn't be an issue put in a general election. It should be in a democratic, constitutional, legal referendum. We're only talking about this because we're in a situation where Westminster governments don't respect Scottish democracy.
So that's the First Minister's plan B. But if you look at the opinion polls, they suggest to me that voters have already moved on from that idea, and that to them the next election looks like being more of a referendum on the Conservative government. But much more immediate are the problems facing the NHS. Now, that dominated First Minister's questions in the Scottish Parliament yesterday. And today, Nicola Sturgeon, in an interview with me, apologised to patients waiting for treatment and care.
I am deeply sorry to anybody whose experience on the NHS is not what it should be.
And do you have confidence in your Health Secretary?
Yes, I do.
Do you think he's doing a good job despite the waiting problems that we've just been talking about?
I think the Health Secretary is doing a good job. He's focused on supporting the NHS. The NHS is under severe pressure, and anybody who suggests that that is somehow because of the Health Secretary, in Scotland we're under severe pressure like other health services are.
So she's deeply sorry about people who are having to wait for NHS treatment, and she has full confidence in the Health Secretary. She's also urging the public to retain full confidence in the NHS, even although it's a bit stretched at the moment. Nurses will be here at the SNP conference protesting tomorrow as they start to ballot for strike action. But this isn't going to be anything like the chaos we've seen at the Conservative conference. There's going to be no U-turns, no briefing against the leader, because at an SNP conference, pretty much everyone agrees with Nicola Sturgeon.
All right, Colin, from Aberdeen, thank you. Now, businesses are urging the UK government to act quickly to ensure any new laws needed for support measures are in place for the start of November. Ministers announced help for companies struggling with rising energy bills last month.
The Westminster Parliament has been in recess for conference season. Business leaders want MPs to make dealing with the energy crisis their priority when they return next week. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
The bill to keep the food and beers chilled has already soared in recent months. At this bar, the cost of electricity has risen from £1,000 a month to around £3,300. The owner fears support measures announced by the UK government do not go far enough.
It's putting a plaster on the crack of a dam. It's not really helping us. Something has to happen, or you're going to see the demise of high streets, small businesses and community hubs like this. It would be an absolute shame if crippling costs like this coming from big corporations are the ones that, do you know what I mean, lock the doors, put the padlock in the front of doors like this all over the country. It would be an absolute sin.
This vegan cafe built an outdoor space to help it through the COVID pandemic.
Enjoy.
The rising cost of heating has forced it to condense its hours.
Nobody's got this little back pocket of extra cash that can bring forward, to the plate to pay for the rising cost in energy. It really is something that's going to bother quite a lot of people. We have to just look at everything as a package and try and adapt and overcome.
Figures today showed the number of companies going out of business in England and Wales hit a 13-year high in the 3 months to June. as well as higher energy bills. The rising cost of materials and disruption to supply chains have also taken their toll.
We can see these figures south of the border foreshadowing what's going to happen in Scotland. We need to actually make those measures become a reality. Some of that requires legislation, and Parliament is still not sitting. We have been off in conference season. They won't be coming back until next week. If this legislation has to be passed to come into effect at the beginning of November, then our MPs and the UK government need to get their skates on.
For businesses, absorbing costs is becoming increasingly difficult. Many have already cut back on all they can. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Other stories across Scotland, and the owner and chairman of Glasgow Clan has expressed his utter revulsion, disappointment and anger a week after the ice hockey club tried to sign a player who faced an alleged rape charge. Hours after announcing Lassi Usivirta had joined, a fan backlash saw the club U-turn and drop the Finnish player. The chairman, Neil Black, says he will now either sell the club or bring in more owners.
Commuters will face major disruption next week, with ScotRail workers set to strike. Just a handful of services will be running on 3 Central Belt routes on Monday, and only a slow service between Glasgow and Edinburgh. It's part of a wave of industrial action on the railways across the UK after the RMT union rejected the latest pay offer.
It's Friday, Monday is the other side of the weekend. We're beyond the point of no return now. The disruption to services will definitely happen on Monday, and that's a real disappointment for us, and we're very sorry to our customers who will have their journeys disrupted on Monday. And after Monday we'll be seeking to sit down again with the RMT to understand why they rejected the offer.
Allegations of misconduct in the world of competitive Irish dancing have emerged. The All Scotland Championships, one of the dance's major international events, is currently being held in Glasgow. The governing body, the CLRG, has received allegations that individuals offered inducements to promote dancers to a higher than deserved placing. An investigation is ongoing.
And get your COVID booster and flu vaccine. That's the message from public health experts who are warning of a double threat from the 2 viruses this winter. Scotland is now facing its 4th wave of COVID-19 since the start of 2022. It comes as the number of people in hospital with coronavirus increased by 12% last week compared to the latest figures.
It's a time of change at Cricket Scotland following a report which found the organisation to be institutionally racist. The new chair says his immediate priority is to rebuild the sport from the grassroots.
The 2 former cricketers whose complaints sparked the independent review say the appointment fills them with hope that Scottish cricket can move forward. Our chief reporter Sharon Frew has more.
Just hours in his new job, and the chair of Cricket Scotland stated his determination to eradicate racism from the sport. He still needs to recruit people to help him. The entire board resigned after a damning review found serious institutional failings.
It was traumatic for a number of individuals. It was horrible. It should never have happened. I was angry, I was upset, and I was really frustrated by it. It's a real problem, but I'm a problem solver. If we put our mind to it, which we will, and we have the right people involved, and we listen, and we do the right things, we will rebuild this organisation.
This lunchtime, the interim CEO of Cricket Scotland met with the 2 former players who were among the first to speak out. This was their first meeting following the report in July that detailed 448 examples of institutional racism.
We're really committed to working with running out racism with Amar, Majid, Kazim and everybody else to make sure we get the sport into a place where it's a welcoming sport for everybody.
Obviously been a positive day for Scottish cricket today, and one of the days finally got some hope in moving Scottish cricket forward.
This is an opportunity to be the leaders in Scottish sport when it comes to institutional racism, and I hope down the line, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line, we're celebrating the success of Cricket Scotland and the changes they've made, and not just for cricket in Scotland but Scottish sport in general.
The new chair acknowledges there is still much to do in the months ahead to meet the deadlines of the action plan put in place after the review and to bring about genuine cultural change. Sharon Frew, STV News.
travelling exhibition encouraging visitors to go on an exploration of self-discovery to help manage mental health has opened in Glasgow. Journey of the Mind looks at how the work of Sikh teachers dating back 550 years can help society today. It's on display at the city's Kelvin Grove Art Gallery, as Susan Ripple reports.
There's so much to take in at this exhibition. But with each image, people are encouraged to think about their own minds and how the texts of Sikh teachers can help improve mental health.
The mind is something that we all have in common, and it's a really interesting exhibition that sort of doesn't talk about our differences but talks about the commonality, and the thread that weaves through this exhibition is the mind. It's just an alternative thinking, an alternative approach to understanding something that we all have in common.
This is the newest installation in the collection, called Medicine for the Mind.
The mind is very different. The mind can't be seen. You can't see it on an X-ray. It is the essence of who we are. And so when you're feeling that pain, that anxiety, whatever that pain is defined as for you personally, the question is, well, what kind of doctor do I need for my mind? What is the medicine to heal the mind?
Before entering the exhibition, there are these chalkboards set up with a thought which the public are encouraged to fill in. So, for example, this one says justice is, and people have written things like equality, repairing the past, saving the planet. The exhibition is on tour across the UK and will be in Glasgow for the next 2 weeks.
Where this exhibition takes you is that all of our pain all starts from just that one thought. And when that thought is left uncontrolled, it spirals and revolves into many thoughts. And that causes you kind of that real pain and suffering that we're all feeling right now. So this starts to just explore that, get you to really understand that that's what's happening. And then powerfully, it gives you that way out, that solution.
And it's hoped by spending time here, visitors will pick up ideas of how to improve their own mental wellness. Susan Ripple, STV News, Glasgow.
Now to sport with Raman.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Ange Postecoglou admits it will be difficult to fill the void left by Callum McGregor, with his captain set to spend a lengthy time on the sidelines. At Rangers, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst wants Ryan Kent to bring more to his game. A roundup of today's football news begins with the very latest at Celtic. Callum McGregor's match against RB Leipzig on Wednesday night was cut short after sustaining a knee injury. The Celtic skipper underwent a scan yesterday and saw a specialist today.
It's obviously not just a short-term one, so but the extent of it we'll have to wait and see. You can't just replace him, with one person overnight. He's a professional on and off the field, and he'll tackle his rehab, as determined as anyone. And as I said, whatever timeline he's given, he'll do his utmost to get back sooner.
Cameron Carter-Vickers and Aaron Moy trained with the squad this morning. Leo Labada returns for the trip to Perth, but David Turnbull is unavailable due to tonsillitis. Elsewhere, it's second against third as Rangers face St Mirren at Ibrox. Ryan Kent scored his first league goal in 10 months at Tynecastle last week, but followed that with a disappointing performance against Liverpool.
He has to bring more. I mean, I think Ryan is an exceptional player with a lot of qualities. I think the performance he had against Hearts was a really good one. I think the qualities hasn't been there every game. He just needs to be consistent and make sure he gives them, the best positions on the pitch to be dangerous.
St Mirren have won 5 out of the last 6 games. Jonah Ayunga is suspended, while Curtis Main will be given until the last minute to prove his fitness.
We have got players that can hurt Rangers. We've got legs and energy in the team that can run beyond them, and as I say, we don't change too much. We just adjust our line either backwards or forwards depending who we're playing.
Motherwell travel to Easter Road tomorrow on the back of a 5-0 thrashing of Ross County. Kevin Van Veen scored a hat-trick on Tuesday night to take his tally to 10 for the season.
He's been great. I mean, I think he's already matched his total from last season, and we're just into the first week in October, so that's great to see. I think there's still more to come for Kev. I know he's super motivated. I think he sets targets for himself, and he's probably too critical of himself when he misses chances. He's got good competition now as well to push him, and that'll push him on.
Kilmarnock host Hearts after ending a 3-game losing run with a victory against St Johnstone during the week. Elsewhere, Livingston are at home to Ross County, while Dundee United welcome Aberdeen to Tannadice. And one final piece of football news. Scotland will face Turkey in a friendly next month. The game will be in Turkey. A venue has yet to be confirmed.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Philip has your weekend weather. It's going to be wet.
The outlook for the day is calm and settled. TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
Well, as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we're still holding on to quite a few showers. Eventually, those will become confined mostly to the far west, so central, southern and eastern areas turning a bit drier through the early hours of tomorrow morning. We could see some clear spells, and that could lead to some mist and fog patches forming, and with the light winds, it will help temperatures to drop away. So a chilly night to come, lows of around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, but even some rural spots could get close to freezing. Now looking ahead to tomorrow, and we'll continue to see these showers affecting western parts through the course of the afternoon. Elsewhere, a drier, brighter start to the day. We've got high pressure across the south of the UK extending its influence, so overall it will be a more settled, calm day than we've seen as of late, with temperatures reaching highs of 13 or 14 degrees Celsius. So not as chilly as today, but still you'll need to wrap up if you're heading out and about. Looking ahead to Sunday now, and unfortunately it will be turning wetter and windier once again. Overnight into Sunday, the high pressure will pull away and it will be replaced by low pressure that pushes in this cold front. That will bring with it wet weather to start the day across the far north and west, and then eventually that rain will spread eastwards through the afternoon to all parts. We'll continue to see the wind strengthening, possibly reaching gusts of 60 miles per hour and temperatures reaching highs of 15 Celsius. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
And that is all from us tonight, and in just over half an hour we will know if Scotland will host the Eurovision Song Contest.
Let's hope Glasgow is calling. Enjoy the rest of your night. Good night.
Bye-bye.